Morgans Financial is Australia's leading stockbroking and wealth management firm. We're 42 years old now, and amazing, some of our staff have been with us the entire time. It's been a great journey, and certainly started with humble origins in Brisbane here, and yeah, grown now to be certainly Australia's largest stockbroking and financial services firm.
Well, Morgans actually opened on the 1st of October 1982. Paul Morgan was a very forthright bloke who was looking upward. He was the founding partner. I became a partner a year later, and there was myself and 3 others, so there were 5 of us in 1982. It was a very small operation in the Piccadilly Arcade. It was a lot of fun, but it all went from there. I do think Morgans has stuck with, and I think they've stuck with all the founding principles actually. We go to where the people are, give personal service throughout Australia over the decades as we've opened branches, and really focus on private client broking. Well, the growth was stellar. We started our first branch in 84, second one in 85, third one in 86, and then it really accelerated. Early on, the thing that propelled us forward the most, single event, was Crocodile Dundee. We raised the money in early 1985. Our Gold Coast office had just joined us. Dennis Johnson, one of them, was a childhood friend of Paul Hogan. Dennis, who was never short on confidence, said, we'll raise that money. And it was 8.8 million, which was just a ridiculously large amount of money for us. And we got the deal, and then we said, my God, what do we do? But it was a worldwide success, and we were 20 people in Brisbane. And I would think our client base swelled by 2 or 3 times in the year following the screening of Crocodile Dundee. You'd have to say that that just set us up. It was such notoriety for a small group that you couldn't have got any other way. We moved a bit fast, a bit early, and we were probably lucky to be a publicly owned company when the crash came. 87 crash was a big hit for all brokers, but a big hit for Morgans.
Well, it was a asset bubble that was probably worse than we've seen since, and then it crashed and it went down 20-30% overnight.
The late 80s were brutal. The severity of the 87 market crash, a lot of companies and businesses did not survive, and we were losing money, and there was adjustment across the whole financial services sector. In that, we had the opportunity to undertake a management buyout. Paul Morgan retired from the business in 1990, and Roger Clark, Ian Johnston and Bruce Wallace, Peter Evans and myself and Bill Chatterton and Philip Lee became shareholders. As a consequence of the management buyout, our can-do attitude of the 80s continued, and we started to grow the branches aggressively.
We said, well, this branch model's got to stick, but we've got to make them franchises. That was the big kicker for the branches, because we went from 14 of the 15 branches losing a bit of money in 1990 to, after 1/4 of franchising, 14 out of 15 making money.
We were lucky in the time that we hit. The impact of that was that people that we hadn't heard about used to come and find us. And if we thought they were the right people for us and the location wasn't a problem, we would consider that and support them in opening. And that worked really well and has continued to work pretty well.
No other broker in Australia has ever done what we've done in the branches. Many brokers still lose money in tough markets, but Morgans never do, because this franchise branch business just underpins the business.
Our growth in our branch network nationally gave us the ability to distribute vast numbers of shares to vast number of people in regional and rural Australia. First-time investors, mum and dad investors, for example, Telstra, where we did in Telstra 3, we did in excess of $1 billion in relatively small shareholdings across tens and tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of small mum and dad investors across Australia. And that led us to significant involvement in a company like the listing of Woolworths, where we put tens of thousands of shareholders on the register. We were the only company in Australia that had a national network of branches, and therefore we were able to participate at some significant degree in a lot of the privatisations undertaken by the government. Things like Qantas, CBA, Telstra, Suncorp Metway. We had the ability to deliver shares to the public at large and to super funds. We got the opportunity to be involved in raising capital for an enormous number of companies that are household names, many of them from Domino's Pizza to Data3 to Beacon Lighting, Bank of Queensland, Lavissa, Jupiters, Whatif.com, AACo. Many of these companies, we've seen the growth over decades, and a number of them have been recognised as part of the QUT Business Leaders Hall of Fame. One of the fortunate things for Morgans is that we have been profitable every month of every year since 1991, when the management buyout occurred. Being profitable has allowed us to spend significantly in the area of technology and research, and for that reason we've been able to ride up and down with the changes that have occurred across markets around the world. We embarked on building a research capacity, and that was first headed up by Sophie Mitchell in 1992, and it's grown from there, and we concentrated on particular industries and companies that may not have been as fashionable or mainstream, and that led us to the tourism, travel, leisure sector. It led us to the agricultural sector. Power Brewing Company we floated, which built the $100 million brewery at Yatala. In addition to that, we floated company Wattpac, the float of Flight Centre, which in the mid-90s, when the internet era arrived, the international predictors of what would be our fate suggested that we would travel agents would all go broke and stockbrokers would go broke. And interestingly, a company like Flight Centre, which we listed on the exchange in the mid-90s, happened to be a $100 million company that is now a $3.5 billion company. And then later years, corporate travel, again, an $80 million company, now $3.5 billion company. Our success in the 90s in terms of raising capital, we obviously got on the radar of a number of overseas investment banks, and one very large investment bank, ABN AMRO. They became a 50% shareholder in our business, and that was a very significant milestone for Morgans.
We were now stepping up our abilities, our research production, our research delivery, our compliance systems, our technology, to be on a global level. So if we were going to, be on the world stage, we had to operate that way and perform that way. So that was a real, I suppose, positive for us, an unintended positive for us in our ability to lift our game, lift our professionalism.
ABN AMRO became a shareholder, and a very good shareholder in Morgans, up until the time of the global financial crisis. So if you talk 2007, 2008, they were taken over by the Royal Bank of Scotland, who were in effect broke.
That all ended in tears, and effectively what happened was, their crisis became again our opportunity, and we were able to purchase that stake back. And, importantly, a lot of the staff that were working with ABN AMRO/RBS, got to understand the Morgans culture and what we were doing, and actually decided that, or asked whether they could stay on and work with us. So, the GFC was it was a doozy of a correction. No one escaped from the GFC. What I think that we were able to achieve in those periods was a team culture, and the team culture that we developed really helped us get through the GFC. Obviously, the logic was that these corrections don't last forever, but if we can hold the business in good stead through that period, we will come out bigger and stronger than some of our competitors. So, you know, every crisis there's opportunity. That's the way we looked at the GFC after we'd got through the initial shock, obviously.
There's always going to be challenges in life and in business, but I think especially some of those challenges are really vivid when it comes to financial services and markets. And when that happens, it comes back to the teamwork. It tends to be much easier to deal with a crisis. Teamwork is easier to say, it's not always easy to do. Especially in financial services, we find it can be a little bit of a hero mentality, whereas Morgans certainly play that down. We love to see a team approach and a shared responsibility on outcomes. It's the sort of place, many people describe it like a family, the big Morgans family, and you really know that when things go wrong or when someone's in trouble, and this family gets around them and really makes them feel that everything's okay, and we're really proud of that.
If you took a poll around the broking world how long people stay at brokers, I have no doubt that our length of tenure is dramatically higher than anybody else's.
The camaraderie, the relationship with people, I mean, you can't beat it, and that's the strength behind the group. It's a Morgan style.
Yeah, I think our biggest difference is that we care. You know, we care about each other, we care about our clients, you know, whether they're, you know, corporate clients or, you know, the mum and dad that we're advising. You know, I think it differentiates us.
When one looks at a business, you've got to look at your stakeholders, and obviously we see that our clients, our shareholders, our staff, the regulators that we meet the rules for, and the community. If you're going to run a successful business, you've got to have them all in balance. You can't say, oh, I'm going to look after one and not the other. You've got to have them in balance. And certainly the community is something that we're very passionate about. And the foundation was set up in 2005, and I think to this point has distributed about $16 million to a variety of charities around the country, from the smallest level of the local footy team to the biggest level of these fundraising sort of events and initiatives.
Certainly it's gone from strength to strength. It was agreed right back then that there'd be a small percentage of revenue, Morgan's revenue, that would flow into the foundation, and that's, you know, been ongoing.
My favourite memory at Morgans easily has to be that first year we created the Big Dry Friday Appeal. It's where we give back to regional communities where they need help. It can be in periods of drought, supporting mental health and a range of other causes. And the power really comes from, you know, every Morgans individual, branch, department, all coming together in a variety of different ways with the support of our clients, our corporates, and the Morgans Foundation and other charitable foundations as well. It's a powerful contribution of forces.
The foundation is just a perfect example of how we give back to the community, and that's really important.
I'd like to think that Morgans is a very big part of the Brisbane financial community and contributed a lot over the 40 plus years that we've been around. If you look at Morgans, we're really the only true large stockbroking firm here in Brisbane as head office, and always had a head office here in Brisbane. We're very proud and parochial of our Queensland origins. So that's meant that we've been able to provide 400 staff here in Brisbane with a great career option. So I think if you look at what Morgans is really proud of, it's really bringing that financial advice to those who most need it. Financial advice can be difficult, and financial investing is not simple. So making that accessible to all our clients right around the country is something that we're really proud of, and making a difference to their life, achieving their personal goals, seeing their kids go to university, buying houses, setting up for retirement. There's the sorts of things that I think really make us proud. So the growth of Morgans has really been amazing when you look back from our origins, starting with one office here in Brisbane, now to 60 offices right around the country, and now with one in Hong Kong. We've got in excess of 200,000 clients. We manage about $50 billion in client holdings, which is a great honour, and about 1,000 people all up in our business now. We think there's a lot more years to come. We certainly haven't stopped growing, and there's a lot to achieve yet. Australia's got this amazing financial services sector, and it's exciting to be a big part of that future too. So yes, with our superannuation funds growing like they are, we think there's a big future for Morgans and the whole sector. We're investing in people to ensure that we can provide great career opportunities. So we want to grow advisors as well as our branch network. And in terms of clients, you know, there's a lot of unmet client needs in this country. For us, we've invested tens of millions of dollars over recent years to make sure that we're at the forefront from a technology point of view, and that's really keeping us ahead of the pack, and I think will be very important to our growth going forward too.
I think we want to be able to look back in 40 years' time and be really proud of a business that continues to put the client first, continues to really promote and nurture that incredible culture we have here at Morgans, but also not be afraid to change and adapt and to innovate the business as we go.
We've created a huge difference to the way that many Australians have seen their financial investments managed, grown, and changed lifestyles for the better because of that. So, you know, if that was our legacy, I think we'd all be very proud.